Hi, I'm Sara Schaefer. We live in hell. Let's craft through it. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the very second episode of Crafting Through It. I am so excited that the show is now out. Episode 1, we started it off with a bang. At least 300 views as of this taping. Wow, 300. I mean, I was expecting 10, so imagine my surprise. No, seriously though, there's a lot of excitement about the show. I think it'll take a while for people to catch up on the actually watching it, but the promo clips that we put out online, people really seem to resonate with it and like the show so far, the concept of it at least. So that's really exciting. I've been getting lots of very positive feedback and excitement and support from friends, acquaintances, and lots of new people as well. And I've even started to meet people that are reaching out saying oh, I live in Virginia. I live not too far away from you. I live in Richmond, like-minded crafting type people, which is so great because even though I grew up here, it is in a way living in a new town because I haven't been here for over 20 years. And there are a few people here that I grew up with that I'm still friendly with or friends with. But, everybody has their own lives. They've got kids, and everybody's busy. I can't just drop in to someone's life and be like, we're best friends now. We haven't spoken in a really long time, but I need you. But I have family here. My brother lives here. We're very close with his family and their kids. And my dad lives here. My other two sisters live in Arizona. We're also very close. Close family. But yeah, meeting people who are crafters, I don't think that would be hard, but meeting people who are like-minded is more challenging. There are a lot of crafty type stores around here. I would say I don't know if you've heard of something called the Painted Tree. I think it's a chain, but basically what it is a year-round art market inside an old big box store. So one of the many shut down and bankrupted big box stores of yore, an old Bed Bath & Beyond, there'll be something called the Painted Tree, and there's a million little booths, and people sell their own stuff out of each booth. And I was interested in checking that out because I was oh, maybe I want to have a booth one day and sell my wares to people, which is something I do want to do, selling things in person. I've only had an Etsy shop this whole time, and I've never really sold things in person. Maybe some merch after shows, but not extensively. So I went into this place, and I'm kind of out in the suburbs a little bit, and it was not my taste. No offense to the people who have booths in a Painted Tree. This particular one, I'm sure there's ones with different quality of things in it and coolness factors, but there was a lot of cringe in this place. There was some good stuff. It's not like I couldn't find anything in there that I wanted or related to, but it was just a lot of what I call Cricut machine craft, which I have a Cricut machine. No shade. I use it a lot. It is a genius investment. It's paid for itself already 12 times over, using it for various projects. And it cuts, basically, if you don't know what a Cricut machine is it's a I don't know what the technical term is, die cutting machine or something, but it cuts paper, vinyl, a lot of different materials, fabric, chipboard, which is a thin, I use that a lot for different projects. Chipboard is a great medium for building small things, because it's not as heavy as wood but it's got a thickness to it, a sturdiness to it. You can cut so many different things with a Cricut machine precisely. You can use pens in it that will draw or write precisely for you. So if you need precision and you, especially if you're doing things in bulk or like it's a larger project, the Cricut machine can be extremely useful. And I love it, but I will say there's a Cricut machine aesthetic that you find like in the Cricut. Cricut comes, you know, you can get this, they have a design software app that you can use. It's like a Photoshop or, you know, any of those types of design, but it's specifically for the Cricut. And I find it very easy to design things in there because it's meant for crafting. So it just kind of is set up in a way that makes sense. The way you do, it has a few things that I'm like, God, I wish they had this feature that Photoshop has or whatever, but it's set up for printing and cutting, and those kinds of, you know, it's meant to become a physical item, not just be an image that you create. So in the design space, there's libraries of images you can use, clip art, project ideas, project tutorials, the files for projects. And I think people like submit items into the shop, into the libraries, and I think they get kickback. I think they do make money for being designers in Cricut. And that's great. I love that. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. But I would say overall, the Cricut aesthetic is directly linked to the proliferation of live, laugh, love signs, which I do recommend watching my half-hour comedy special. It's also on my album, Live, Laugh, Love, where I go hard on the live, laugh, love signs. I call them inspirational quotes on a rustic piece of driftwoods. Inspirational quote on a rustic piece of driftwood in multiple fonts. And I just go off on that entire aesthetic, like that cursive. You know what I'm talking about. I call it like Cricut cursive. You know, anything journey, you know, hello. You know, you're going to make a sign that it goes in your kitchen that says coffee. This is where you get coffee. It's in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, so I would say Cricut aesthetic was abundant in the painted tree in my area. And I felt, I was suspicious. If you've ever been to a farmer's market or an art market and you're suspicious that somebody, the things they're selling are part of a multi-level marketing or MLM. I don't know if they would call it direct sales, but where it's like, oh, this looks like you just got everything in a box and you set up a booth and you did not make any of this stuff. Like soaps, candles. It just feels like some of it is not handmade by the person with the booth, that they're in some sort of diamond pyramid scheme. So it just isn't really my thing in that particular place. But I have no idea where I was going with this. Oh, finding like-minded crafters. Yeah, I mean, it's a taste level thing, and I want to be careful to not shit on other people's taste, because my taste is cringy and shitty to many. You know, I'm not like super high-end fashion decor, like, you know, like the cutting edge of art, you know, but I do like that stuff. I like it. And I'd rather lean towards the more, I wouldn't say trendy, but like, I guess more sophisticated taste and style and modern. And, but I'm not quite there. But I'm not quite like cringy either. I'm somewhere in between. And I want to find other people that are like that, that aren't snobs, but also aren't, just like really tacky stuff that they make. Hopefully that didn't come off insulting, but I think you know what I mean. And politically, I think in the crafting world, there is, you know, like I said, crafting is political. And like, you know, if you see somebody with a sign that is all about Jesus, you wonder, you know, are we going to get along? Are we going to agree? Not that I wouldn't get along with with a Christian. By all means, I have friends that are Christians. I grew up Baptist. I get it. But I would say that Christianity has taken a turn in America. Okay, well, we're gonna move on from that. But anyway, very excited for this show. The amount of support I feel right now is really exciting, and I just feel like there's nowhere to go but up. And even though it's a small start, it is a mighty start. So thanks for being here. What else happened this week? A Super Bowl. This also kind of speaks, I know you're like, how is she going to relate the Super Bowl back to crafting? Well, there's a lot of cringe in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. You know, I just think, I don't know if it's the world we're in right now. And I also don't really care about football. So I understand a lot of people really get into it. There's no, like, I went to my brother's house and we watched the Super Bowl. We had fun. Like, I don't mind watching a football game. But in this climate, it was just jarring. The president being there, just the commercials especially just like filled me with dread. Like, so much AI was being used. I'm super anti-AI. However, because AI is taking my job literally and a lot of people's jobs that I know, already copywriting, translating. I have a friend who's a translator. Their job is gone. Copywriting is going away. Writing, this was a huge part of the strike, the AI stuff. AI is going to threaten all the aspects of Hollywood. Handmade crafts, definitely still handmade by us. That's one thing we can hang on to, which is another reason why I love crafting. But I do think a lot of people casually use AI for, like, just, I don't know, just anything to help them. Like, hey, write a letter for me, or, you know, or Photoshop, or come up with a picture of this, and this, like funny ideas. But I think the impact of AI is not only bad for, you know, workers, but it's bad for the environment, the amount of energy it takes. There's a lot of issues with AI. And you might think, oh, AI is stupid. It is. It's very uncanny. It makes weird stuff, but it's just going to keep getting better. And it's going to get harder and harder to tell what is AI and what isn't in a lot of mediums. So I just hope that we all get to keep living. You know what I mean? So there was like a lot of AI I felt like that creeped me out. I mean, Tom Cruise didn't look real in that beginning thing. Like, he totally looked like it was AI. They were just like, okay. I mean, I know Tom Cruise has probably had work on his face, but like, I've seen him also recently, and I remember thinking like, Tom Cruise is like letting himself age just a little bit, and he's looking like old, like Silver Fox hot right now. And again, I'm not a huge Tom Cruise like lover. Okay, I have other celebrities that I think are hotter than him, but I was like, oh, he's aging well. He's looking good. In whatever this Super Bowl thing was, it was weird. He looked weird. It did look like AI to me, personally. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but that's the world we're in right now. We can't tell, and that's creepy. And it's like, I can't trust anything. But also, I think another part, and I'm going to move on to like what we're actually going to be doing today, but another part of the Super Bowl, and this, I do think this conversation speaks to creativity and crafting and art, but a lot of the commercials are really leaning, I'm getting very tired of the, let's just put a celebrity in a commercial that is like known for something, and then we try to mix that up with them, and it's like, wink, wink. Isn't it funny that, you know, like Eugene Levy's eyebrows are flying around, and that's Little Caesars. And then there's a Pringles commercial, which is also about people's eyebrows flying off their faces. So you got two eyebrows flying off the faces. It's a lot of like weird inside joke type commercials that I felt, I don't know if I'm just old and out of touch. I don't think I am, but a lot of it just didn't make, it was just weird enough where I was like, what the actual fuck did I just watch? And I think for a long time that was funny in commercials. And it was like, oh, weird is cool for advertising. But now it's like gone, it's like getting old, I guess. And it's just like weird for the sake of weird. And I guess because they want you to remember it, that's like, they just want you to like for it to get stuck in your head. And you go, oh God, Aflac, you know. But it's just creeping me out, all of it. And I think it's just because of the environment we're in right now, all of the advertising and all the like ritual. And I mean, and sorry, I'm gonna wrap this up soon, but also when you realize that it's like the Colosseum in Rome, like, or something, I don't know if that's the proper delineate or comparison, but the people at the Super Bowl, by and large, are very wealthy. It is a very elite event in terms of physically attending. So when you think about the physical, yes, everybody's watching it on TV, but when you think about the physical situation, the actual live event itself, the people there are a ton of rich people, celebrities, you know, our dear leader. And there's, you know, I used to look at other countries like maybe North Korea, perhaps World War II era Germany. And I would look at some of the public events and be very like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Look at all those people like cheering for that person. And everyone's like smiling and the marching band is going dee, 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 and it's very unsettling. I was like, wow, this is us now. That's what that I feel like. However, there were glimmers of resistance and, you know, against that feeling of we're just all going to pretend like nothing's happening. And obviously Kendrick, to me, did that very well. And that was art in its best form, you know, where it is got a lot of hidden meanings, but it's also incredibly bold and brave because, you know, of the setting that I'm describing here, to go out there and do stuff that is potentially provocative, even for him, you know, the Drake stuff, but also like his political commentary under the surface. You know, somebody held up a flag, Gaza, Sudan, you know, and apparently they weren't supposed to do that, but they did it anyway. And I mean, there's some real, I mean, and this is not just, Kendrick's not the first person to do that. I remember when Beyonce did the Super Bowl, people were in an uproar because of what she was doing, but also, the things she was saying and singing and doing on that field were symbolic, and the setting itself, it was very subversive. I would say even Rihanna, her performance I thought was super artistic, just the simplicity of it. It was a little more fun. I don't think it had as much like overt political messaging in it, but it was just artfully done. But Kendrick, I mean, what? Oh my God, love that man. The screenshot of him smiling as he's like walking like this in his little flare jeans, and he's like, I know what I'm doing. Like, it's just it's so satisfying. And it was fun. And just then reading about all the different meanings, I don't claim to know all the details. My niece Chloe had to explain the Drake and Kendrick beef, you know, because I was like, I can't keep up with it. I can't. I'm too far behind. I'm still trying to figure out Tupac's problem with Biggie. Anyway, so yeah, so that was interesting. And like Serena Williams, like just the little quick shot of her doing the crip walk and stuff, like all of it was just very powerful in my mind and like fun. And the people in the audience were like singing along and singing out the words that he wasn't going to say. And you can read about it online. Anyway, you know, this is now old news. But anyway, the point I guess I wanted to make was that, like, I like art that is, you know, out there. We're in America, we're in this system, and we have to exist in it. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to move, I'm going to leave the country. Well, a lot of us can't do that. And I don't want to do that. I want to be here. I want to exist and thrive within this system, to push against it. With my art. Again, I'm doing politics. I know I said I wasn't going to linger on that stuff. I think probably one of the bravest pieces of creativity I ever put out there was I collaborated with my friend Camilla, who we did a shirt. I came up with the phrase and she did the design. You can still buy it. It's like out there in one of those like t-shirt stores, threadless maybe, I don't know. And it's, the phrase on the shirt is just, men aren't funny. And it was me pushing back on the phrase that we always hear, which is women aren't funny. And if you see the phrase men aren't funny, you go, what? That doesn't even make sense. Of course men are funny. That's how it sounds to me when someone says women aren't funny. And it's meant to point out the absurdity of that statement and to turn it on its head. Anyway, so I love art that kind of messes with that. And it was so funny when I put that shirt out, Men Aren't Funny, how pissed off dudes got over it. They were just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, and I was just like, it's a joke, dumbass. Also, if it's pissing you off, maybe that should tell you something. All right. Oh, really quick fun news. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about, the painted tree and finding like-minded people. I'm doing something I'm never done before. I am doing my first in-person like art market in art show or whatever you call it, craft show in ever. It's the first craft show I've ever done. I have a booth. It's very local. It's in Midlothian, Virginia. It's April 27th and April 28th at Westchester Commons. I think it's called like Art Market or Spring Craft Market or something. But I have a booth. It's low risk. It wasn't very expensive to get a booth. And I'm going to bring my stuff and see if in person the random passerby, if they would be interested. Because a lot of my sales have been directly to people who find me online or a fan of my comedy. They hear a recommendation from someone that follows me that has a big following. You know, it's been very organic that way. And I've never really tested, does my stuff sell to the random lady in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia? Like, is someone going to walk by the booth and come close enough to see this and buy it? So I'm coming up with lots of stuff to sell. One of which we will be working on today, and who knows if this stuff will sell, but we'll get to that in a second. I also wanted to talk really quickly. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about that stuff while we craft. Let's just get into it, okay? Well, first, First, I was going to show you my thrift store find of the week. I found these two things at Goodwill, okay? You might recognize something like this. It's like a upholstery sample book, okay? So it's like all the different fabrics that you would get, you know, that you would, when you go into like a fancy furniture store or whatever, you pick up from the different upholsteries. And I was like, wow, it's all these different small pieces of fabric. Now, what would I do with those? Well, if you work in miniatures, this kind of fabric is really great for making like a tiny rug, like even just cut as is like that, a tiny rug, tiny upholstery for little pieces of furniture. I could even use this for like applique or a quilt, which I've never really made a quilt. I would love to make a quilt one day. Anyway, I got these two. Great little thrift store find for crafters. Always go to your thrift stores. There's a lot of stuff in there that you could use. We'll get into that. So today's craft, okay, this is going to be beginner level, in my opinion. And it's something I've seen, I guess we'll call this an on-trend craft. It's something I've seen going around in videos, and that one of those crafts that like caught my eye and I went, ooh, I want to do that. You know, when you've got a million other things going on and then you see a TikTok of someone making something and you're like, I could totally do that. And now your entire life is derailed. Well, that's what this project is. So I saw these videos of people using a glue gun to write something or design something on a hat or a shirt and then embroidering over that. And it's sort of an embroidery hack. Okay. But here's the journey that took place. So I got the idea, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make everybody in my family homemade shirts that are embroidered by me with like custom things for them. Now, this was one of those things that I bit off way more than I could chew. I didn't get I got some done, but I didn't get them done in time for Christmas. So this is one of those, crafters know, you've got all these ideas that you're going to make for people for Christmas. You end up only making like one or two things. And then everyone else, you're like, oh, I'm still working on yours. You'll get it in the new year. I'm going to get it to you. It's mid-February and I still haven't finished and gotten these, but I am making some progress. So here's the first one I did. So I went to the thrift store. I got all these sweatshirts and shirts from thrift stores around here. And I did a glue gun design and I embroidered over it, okay? If you can see that, this says Bosco. That's my little sister's nickname. Her name is Ross, and growing up, her nickname was Bosco. So I took a glue gun and I spelled out Bosco, okay? And then I embroidered over it with this cute green thread. And I think it turned out really good. And I was like, yes, this is great. And what I did was I'll show you how I did it. I think that turned out so cute, and it kind of looks homemade, which I like, okay? It doesn't look perfect. I think that aesthetic works right now. It may not forever, but, so Ross, you have a sweatshirt coming your way. Now, here's the issue, is that when I was finishing this first one off, I was like, okay, I want to like, make it so that it is nice and secure. I took some fabric glue on the back and I was like all ready to go. And then I was like, okay, what is the washing instructions so I can tell her? And as soon as I started looking up like glue gun washing instructions, everyone was like, don't use a glue gun on anything that you're going to wash. And I was like, well, what the hell? I already did like 3 shirts. I've already got the glue gun part done. Or I'd already started embroidering it, because what they're saying is that the glue will break down over time, and you especially do not want to use heat on it. So you want to air dry and you want to use cold water. So that was disappointing, to say the least, that I had done this. So Ross, you're getting the experimental one. Still looks cute, but you might need to never wash it. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to make our own embroidered shirt, but I'm going to do a different method. So first I'll show you the different ones I've made. Show and tell. This one, okay, and see, now I'm going to show you why I think the glue gun isn't really great. So this is one I made for my niece Chloe. She goes to the University of Arizona. Those are the colors, and I added like an outline, and I think it turned out pretty cute. It's a little uneven, but that's okay. But you can see it's like puckered a little bit, and this is why I don't like the glue gun. You can see that it's like already, the thread is already coming loose, okay? And I hate that. That's not okay with me. And you can see here, like it's poking out. And that's because the glue is actually starting to peel up off of the shirt. And now the thread that I had over it is slipping underneath it. And so that is, and you can see it there on the Z, it's already doing that. And like, it's not going to do it for the whole letter, but you can see why it's going to be an issue over time if the glue breaks down or starts to peel up. Now, at first when I was making these, I was like, oh, it's so easy to fix a mistake, because hot glue, once it dries, you can just peel it off if you don't like the way it looked. So I was like, oh, this is great. If I make a mistake, I can just redo it. But now I'm realizing the double-edged sword of that is that the glue just, it comes off, it loosens from the fabric over time, and now you're just going to have this thing in there, and you can see it's already starting to get fucked up. Now there's probably a way to prevent this by maybe using some glue, some different glue, fabric glue, to like harden the edges, but anyway, it's puckering, like, so I'm not sure that this is givable. Although my family is probably used to me giving them things that they can tell, oh, that was an experiment version, that was the test version that I'm getting, and then she makes the really good one to sell. So I don't know. We'll see if I can salvage this. I probably can. It would take a long time, but if I really wanted to, I could remove the embroidery, rip it up, take the glue off, and completely start over, and maybe even do something that goes over it in case it leaves any damage on the shirt. But because I don't want to waste the shirt. So we'll see if I can fix it. You're going to see, like, I have so many that I had started, and I'm like, well, but that's how, you're not, as I guess some people say, it's my toxic trait, is thinking that I'm going to, my toxic trait is a little bit like this, where I watch a video on TikTok or Instagram of a crafting or even art, and I'll go, I can do that. And I'll think I'm going to do it perfectly the first time, even though I know I won't. I'm like, I'll probably be pretty close. No. So you don't want to give up though, because, if the investment is low like these. So here's the new version I did. I used, because I happened to come across the algorithm was like, let's fix this. I came across somebody who was using, instead of glue, Puffy paint. Now, Puffy paint is formulated to be more durable on fabric. That's what it's meant for. So, and I felt maybe I have more control with the Puffy paint. So this one's for my nephew, and it says, it's a hoodie I found. Pretty nice Target hoodie, thrift store. It says Beast Feast, and I'm doing it in a subtle color in case he thinks that's an embarrassing statement. He can wear it like, and people have to be like, what does that say? But he's in culinary school, so, and this Beast Feast is a term that I think he came up with, or he used to say like when we were going to have like an enormous meal with a lot of meat. He'd call it Beast Feast. So I'm making him the Beast Feast hoodie, and already I can see, now I haven't washed this one yet, so that will be the test. But you can see that it's smaller, and you can get a pretty good embroider on it, and it's not coming loose. Like this, that's the drawback of Puffy paint that I've already found. It's pretty hard to get it off once it's dry. So it's not as mistake friendly as hot glue. So that's that. And I have a couple more that I've been working on, but I was going to show you because this was the one I was going to make for my dad. It says G Daddy, Granddaddy, and I now no longer want to do hot glue. So I'm just going to see, this has been dry for like almost 2 months. I'm going to just see how hard it is to get the hot glue off. And see, look how, well, I said it was coming off easy and now it's stuck, but yeah, see, that came right off. Now you can see it might have left a little residue, but if I go over that with Puffy paint, in fact, it might actually be helpful because the outline is already there. But yeah, so that shows you with the glue, hot glue, that it's a lot easier to get off. Okay, now Puffy paint is not as easy to get off. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. Now, the one I'm working on, again, I got all these at a thrift store, so very low cost, but you know, effort and work put into it, something unique and sustainable that you can give to yourself or buy from me, because I am actually going to sell a few of these because I have some good ideas for them. So the one we're going to work on today, so I actually do have to do some magic of TV for this because some of the steps take a really long time, and nobody wants to watch a 48-hour video of me. Not even my haters, you know what I mean? Okay, so this is the one that we're gonna work on, but I'm gonna show you, we're gonna get back to this, but I wanna show you an in progress one. We're gonna finish this one today. So I love it. It says, it's a little cropped hoodie, which looks like an adult size. I mean, I honestly think this would fit me, but it's for my niece, Jana, who is 8 years old. And she's tried it on. She loves wearing my sweatshirt. She's 8, because they love a baggy look. When they want a baggy look, sometimes she wears tight things, but when they want the baggy look, they love a baggy look. Okay, so it says this is her idea. She's a genius, and if this sells, like, because I'm gonna make another one of these. If it sells, like, if I get a demand for these, I'm gonna have to give her a cut because it's so cute. So I'll explain what it means. 1% Swifty, 99% Livy. So for the adults in the room, you know what a Swifty is, but a Livy is an Olivia Rodrigo fan, okay? And she is a Livy. Not that you have to choose, but she's 1% Swifty, 99% Livy. She does love Taylor Swift still, but she loves Olivia Rodrigo, and that is a very cute saying and a little provocative in the world of Swifties. But she's brave. I was like, would you wear this to school? And she was like, yes. Yes! That's what she says, like, yes! She's 8, okay? Gen Alpha kids little girls are something else. They don't like toys. They like makeup and skincare, okay? That's it. All right. So we're going to finish this. I'll show you how to do it, but we're going to start from the beginning. I was like gonna be cute in this little vintage sweater. It's snowing outside. I wanted to be cozy. We turn the heat off when we do this so that there's no sound. But I am burning up, so I'm gonna take this off. I used to be someone who was cold all the time, and now I'm hot all the time. Thanks, perimenopause. Ding! As I drink a Diet Dr. Pepper that's probably not helping the situation. That's my Super Bowl commercial. All right, so I've got a plain sweatshirt. I would try to find something that has a little bit of thickness to it. Don't go too thin because it'll be harder to embroider on. Now, I don't have a ton of experience doing this type of embroidery, so look, there's probably people out there, and like I said, this is a trend that I'm trying, so this isn't something that I came up with necessarily. It's just something that I've been enjoying getting better at. And it's like a really easy way to make a gift for somebody, something custom, something original. And so I found that like the thicker is a little bit easier, and so we're going to figure out what we're going to put on the shirt. So let's see. I'm not going to do a really long one like the 99% Swifty for this demonstration, just so we don't get caught in the weeds on that. So I was thinking of maybe doing something a little interesting. Like, so I don't know if you've heard, but there's some words that have been banned by Doge, maybe. I don't know who's behind these, Project 2025. I don't know who's doing it. But there's some words we're not allowed to have on government websites anymore. And I guess that means anywhere. I don't know. But there's a whole list out there, and it's words like anti-racism, racism, allyship, DEI, bias, the word bias. Okay. Diversity, diverse, confirmation bias, equity, equitableness, feminism, gender, the word inclusion, no longer allowed. It's being scrubbed from government websites. Why? I mean, we know why. Prejudice, intersectionality, injustice. Privilege, sexuality, racial identity, stereotypes, pronouns. The word pronouns. Because if they had to delete all the pronouns, it would look like a classified document with everything like redacted. Equality, the word equality. So we live in hell, as I've mentioned, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to have some shirts with the banned words on them? I would love to do a shirt with the whole list, just to have it out there, and like literally, like somehow we could raise money and send those shirts to people who work in the federal government, and they just wear them to work. Although they might get fired for that, I don't know. Seems like there's a lot of illegal stuff going on, but what do I know? I'm just an idiot. I'm just a crafter in Virginia, you know? Okay. I've never read laws. Like, what are they? Bias? DEI could be funny. But when you're wearing the shirt, it really depends on who's wearing it. Like a white dude wearing a DEI shirt would be funny. DEI hire. And we give this to a white guy to wear. Would a guy, only the coolest type of guy would wear that kind of shirt. Like, I feel like it's the type of shirt Ryan Gosling would wear to be funny and cute at the Oscars. Should I do DEI hire? Yeah, why not? Fuck it. We'll find a guy who's willing to wear it. There were dudes that would wear my Men Aren't Funny shirt, which to me was like, that's actually funny. And you're proving the point wrong. And also, I find that very attractive. Like when a guy is willing to laugh at themselves like that. But no. Women want big man who eat only beef keto diet. Look. Gradually, this will get crazier, this show. As the world gets crazier, I too. All right, so you got your shirt. If it's wrinkled, maybe iron it. Clean it if you bought it at a thrift store. Go ahead and wash it once. So I'm gonna mark the halfway line so I know where the center, although we have a good point here, I want it to be like clear all the way down where my center is. So I'm just gonna fold the shirt in half. I'm not gonna do, I've tried measuring and stuff before and it never, I'm also pretty good at eyeballing centering. Like I've gotten pretty good at that, but you know, just to be, because at the end of the day, it's how it looks that matters. So if it, you know, but again, like I said, when you make, this is the problem with the puffy paint, is when you make a mistake with it, even when it's still wet, it's really annoying. You have to like kind of start over. I'll show you. I'm gonna do my best to not fuck this up because we don't have time. I'll have to get a different shirt if I fuck it up. Okay, so I'm just gonna pin the halfway point like a little bit down just so I know like that I'm on track. You can also just like use a ruler. We'll double check as we go because you know it really annoys me when things are not centered. So that's, yeah, might just eyeball. See, I'm gonna get a ruler. I'm gonna get my ruler. Actually, I'll get this guy because it holds stuff down. This is like some kind of quilting tool, but I've used it for just generally fabric. So again, it's, you want it to be centered. So I want to mark my center. Okay, so I'm not a huge sewist, and or embroiderer. I've done a lot of cross stitch and I've done a lot of lettering and laying out custom like words that I've put on a hoop in a frame. I've done a lot of wording and lettering and signs and things like that. So that's what I bring to the table here. I don't bring a ton of expertise in like sewing or embroidery in that way, but I think this is just easy enough of a task that I can do it. Okay, so whatever you're gonna write, now there's a lot of different ways to get your design laid out on the shirt. You could, and I'll tell you what I'm gonna do is mark it with one of these things. I think it's like a soapstone thing. You can buy this in the sewing aisle. They also have pencils, markers. There's all kinds of products to like make marks for sewing. I find the pencil on this type of fabric, on like jersey, to be really hard to write. This works a lot better, but something that will come off in the wash is what you want. Or, I mean, you could do it with a Sharpie because you are going to put paint over it, but then you don't have any ability to make a mistake when you do your initial design. Now, there's other ways to transfer patterns onto, for embroidery, and I've seen videos of them, and that's not what I'm doing, but like, I think there's transfers you can do with paper, with iron-on stuff, and then you sew over that. There's so many different ways. So whatever, if you are familiar with embroidering things onto other things, use your favorite method. But in order to center it and make sure because I don't want to fuck it up, I'm going to just get a piece of paper. I'll just grab what I have. And I'm going to write on the paper what I want, just so I can make mistakes, right? I want to like, okay, I want it to be basically like right here. Do I want it arched? Do I want it straight? Whatever, you know, whatever I want. I'm going to use just a pencil for now. You could use a piece of cardstock here too. Actually, I think that's what I'm going to do so that it doesn't get too wrinkled. Yeah, I've got a bunch of shit under here. This happens to be where some of my cardstock is. Okay, so I got a piece of cardstock instead. Now I'm going to center, I want it to be accurate. So I'm going to fold the paper so I know generally where my center is on the paper. And sometimes, one great way to, I do this a lot when I'm doing cross stitch embroidery, to figure out where my center is I'll type Well, a lot of times I'll use graph paper. I'll actually use graph paper because when I'm doing cross stitch embroidery, it is like based on squares, so it makes it a lot easier. Like the fabric has little, it's even weave or cross stitch fabric, it has little squares in it. So I will literally design the letter on the graph paper, and then I know exactly, I count and I know exactly where my center is. And that way when I start from the center and move outwards so that everything is centered on my piece of fabric exactly how I want it. In this case, it's not really like that. It's more freehand. So I'm just going to freehand it for now and see, well, you know what? Actually, I'm just show you what I do. So I'm going to go small and just write it in my own handwriting. And I decide, do I want the little, yeah, I'm going to want that DEI higher. Now, I'm going to do it a couple times because I'm not sure. I just want an idea of where the center is going to be. So I'm going to just, this is like not scientific. I'm just trying to get an eye for it. So that is about 2 inches wide. So my center line is here. So it just tells me the center. This really works when you have like 2 words. If you have a word that's like really simple, like Bosco, BOSCO, that's 5 letters. The center of the S is going to be your center. But when you have 2 words and a space, or if a W, which is a wider letter, like or any kind of punctuation, it can be hard to figure out where the center is going to be, and then your spacing is going to be all fucked up. This also works well for when you're making posters or anything else that you want to be lettered well. Another thing, the Cricut design space, Cricut or even in Photoshop, you could, you could print out what you want. I've done that before with these, just to get an idea of where my center is and place it on here. But I'm just going to handwrite it for now. So it looks like right between the, like closer to the H is going to be my center. So I'm going to just try it on kind of how I want it to look on the sweatshirt here. I'm going to go the size. I'm going to try it. So I don't want it to go much wider than this. I'm thinking about someone wearing it, probably a dude, but I think right here is good. So I'm going to go right beneath that and just do it how I think my puffy paint writing. It will be a little bit different than this, but I'm just trying to get a sense. So there's going to be a space here. So I kind of want it to, I want it to go out to this mark because that's how far it is. E-E-I. See now, I'm going to move it over a little. See, there's probably a much faster way to do this, but this is how I'm doing it. All right. I'm going to try it again until I get it the way I want it to look and centered. Sorry. Right. I think I want to move it over just a little bit more. That's actually looking pretty good. The D is a little bit big, but I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, let's see. It's going to look better than this, I promise. But that's my center line. I just want to measure just to see, like, how is that looking? I'm measuring from the center to the edge of my last letter. It's like 8, wait, let's actually use the proper side here. So that's about 4.5 inches, or maybe a little more. And so then I'm gonna see, yeah, so that's about even. So if I get in that general, like, if I generally get this on the sweatshirt space that way, then I should look centered. So then the next step will be to actually draw my design on the shirt. Okay, so I'm gonna just move this down, and I use something like this to be my line, and I'm gonna stand up so that I can get a bird's eye view. And just, you know, really try to make it look straight. This is all about eyeballing, because I'm not using like a decal or transfer of any kind. It's nerve-wracking, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so that's kind of where my center is, like 4.5 inches. Sorry, this is 4.5 inches. I want this side of the design to go out to this, and this side of the design is going to go out to 9, right? Oh God. All right, that looks straight. So now I'm going to draw the actual words based on how I had these spaced on here, just to try and get it as even as I can. All right. Now, this is going to be really light. You'll see it's not making a really strong mark, but this is just to, again, guide me when I'm doing the puffy paint. Whoops, don't let your thing slide. You could also use a piece of tape here. That won't slide anywhere. Okay. Okay. That's my H. And I'm just trying to get my guide going here. Okay, this I is like probably about 1 inch. See, I definitely I do a lot of planning, and then I end up just like freestyling it because I end up getting frustrated with whatever method I used. But I'm trying to be more precise for this. Okay. Higher. Okay. Now I'm gonna try to use this spacing. All right. Now, sometimes you might need to like walk away from it and come back. It's very faint. I'm going to take that out. And I'm just going to like walk away for a second. And then like, I don't know why walking away helps, but it's just like, okay, I'm not staring at it anymore. Does that look right? Let's see. Does it look even? I'm sure you're looking at it going, no, Sarah, we can all tell. Okay. Yeah. See, I'm like going up here and being like, does that look about the same distance from the like bottom of the shoulder part? Yeah, that looks pretty even. Okay, so now, oh boy. I'm actually gonna use a piece of tape now because I wanna make sure that I don't mess up, because once you start doing the puffy paint, sit back down here. Once you start doing the puffy paint, it can everything can change because you realize, oh, I'm not able to write with puffy paint the way that I was able to write with a pencil or a pen. So just be ready. If you mess up, don't worry, I might mess up here, and that will be okay. We will throw it into a pit and set it on fire. So don't worry. Now I'm going to stand up and look. Does that look straight? Yeah, that looks pretty straight. Okay. Now, I recommend, given what I've already done on a couple shirts, use a puffy paint. I just got this at Joann's, which we're going to talk about in a second. I just got just a little pack of variety colors of puffy paint at Joann's. Tulip puffy paint. And used a coupon. Like I say, always use a coupon. And I recommend using a color, like when you're figuring out your color, use a color of paint that's kind of close to what your thread is going to be. Because that way, if you make any kind of mistakes with like your spacing on the thread or whatever, it blends in and it doesn't look like you screwed it up as much. So I found that that's very helpful. Like you'll see when we get to the stitching part, you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to use green on this. And I recommend, not only recommend, but I demand that you get some sort of, like even just a piece of cardboard or something, or plate, a palette or whatever, to test it on first, because it could like squeeze out like a lot. If you need to do a lint roller here, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze out some just to get a sense of like what my pressure needs to be. Okay, so that it's a nice fine point, so you are going to have some control. If you're worried about this, I would just say do a practice one on a piece of paper first before you get onto the cloth. That is really going to help you understand like how to get the letters to look the way you want and what kind of pressure you need to apply, because it can like squirt out and then you got a big blob and it's annoying. So let's go for it. Okay. Okay, Lord, please guide my hands. Lord, guide my hands with this green puffy paint. May your will be done. Oh, God. It doesn't have to be super perfect because you are going to stitch over it, but do as best you can to be as smooth as you can. Stop if you need to. I have found that when you have a full bottle, it's easier because you have the right kind of pressure. Once the bottle starts getting more empty, it gets harder to apply even paint. So what you're going to want to do is do like frequently get it down to the bottom of the bottle and make sure you've got that. So you're not getting like, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Like my hand is shaking just doing this because it's so nerve-wracking. Okay. Some people have, like if you're good at decorating cakes, you're going to be phenomenal at this. Some people are really, really good at this. I would say I'm probably on the very low end of skill. But so far so good. We're just keeping it simple. I'm not trying to do anything fancy here. Oh God, okay. It's okay. It's okay. There's now a little bit of the paint is on the tape. That's okay. I'm going to fix that in just a second. DEI. There's a little bubble there, so I'm just going to... You can sort of shape the paint a little bit if you need to. If you don't like the way... You can add a little. Like I want that to be just a little bit thicker there. Because again, you're going to stitch over it. And you can use thread to sort of fill in any little bumps or whatever. Okay, let's try this. H. Oh yeah. It is easier to do bigger letters, I am finding, and straight letters because it's just drawing little lines. Oh, we got a little bit of a curve there. That's okay. It's got personality. It's got quirk. The reason this doesn't look perfect, of course, is because I am a DEI hire. I'm a woman. Even though it has been proven that white women do benefit quite a bit from affirmative action. In some cases, deserved, you know. In other cases, we don't need to get into it. I keep saying I'm not going to talk about politics. Literally everything out of my mouth. Okay. E. And I like how it has like a little, almost like a dot on the end of each one because it gives it a little flair. You can totally do cursive. Like if you're comfortable with puffy paint or like cake decorating is a very similar thing, then you can go wild with this. But I'm going to keep it simple because I am not that good at it. So this is very important. You can really fuck this up. Now, okay, let me just backtrack. If you mess up, unfortunately, it's going to be an annoying process. You're going to have to, what I did was you could just wash it, but like I scraped the puffy paint off and then I go and I run it under water. You could even give it a little dish soap. You know, basically wash the area, squeeze it out, put it in the dryer, start over again. Because you're going to get green paint everywhere. You're going to have to wash it off, okay? I'm going to try to fix this eye that is a little bit over the edge for my taste. I'm going to take like a little straight piece of wood and just, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let's find out. Oh God, no. I'm going to try to pull the tape up without fucking it up. So that's what I was going to say, is it's really easy to screw this up. If you were to bunch the fabric or nick it with your hand or something, it will screw it up. So just be very careful around the puffy paint at this stage. Okay, that looks fine. You could even just leave the tape, but I wanted to pull it up because the eye was like a little bit over it. And so I have no bleed over there. Okay. So here's what I recommend at this point, because I screwed up one of them one time in this next stage, because I need this surface. If you don't need this surface, let it dry here. Don't touch it, don't move it, just let it dry here. And I promise you, it is going to take a long time to dry, depending on like what environment you're in. So just don't think it's going to be dry in like an hour. You need at least 4 to 6 hours, if not a full 24. I would say 24 hours to be safe, because I've gone and checked before and I'm like, let me just see, I bet it's like hard now. And I fucked it up. So just let it dry for a long time. Read the instructions on the package, of course. Okay, but if you're going to move it like I am, I recommend getting a book or a large flat thing. Here's another old book of mine. The Complete Library of Needlecraft. Let's see, don't mess up my, it's like a yearbook. Okay, well, it's old. But yeah, it's an old book about, oh yeah. Oh yeah, this lady. This is the lady that your dad would have an affair with, right? Not my dad, my dad. And this is your mom finding out about the affair. Who is she, Stephen? That bitch, Deborah? How could you? Okay, so you're going to take the book and you're going to slide it gently. And then very carefully, because you don't want you might want to get a bigger, we're going to need a bigger book. Okay, I'm very carefully going to move this out of the way. and very carefully sit it down to dry. Let's stitch. Hold on. Okay, wonderful. Now, to do the actual stitching, once your shirt is totally dry, you're going to have something like this. Now, the key to this is, just before we even get into it, there's a few little mistakes in here that I might try to fix once I'm done with it. Of course, I'm already criticizing myself. So a couple things. You're going to want to use, I use just regular, what I had on hand, DC floss embroidery thread. It's in like the cross stitch aisle. But you could also use like yarn if you wanted a different look, or any kind of other string. But you got to think about what kind of needle you're going to be able to get, and just, you can experiment. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but I've used embroidery thread, the whole 6 strands, because each little skein of embroidery thread has 6 little individual threads. I'm going to use all of them for the thickness. Cut yourself a length. I tie a knot. Like I've said, some people don't tie knots, they just stitch over the extra thread on the back, but I just do this for laziness. And then I use kind of a bigger embroidery needle. This has a sharp point because I want it to go through this thicker fabric, and a big eye because it makes it easier to thread. Oh. Everything I make for people that has sewing on it has a little bit of my saliva in it. And that is how you know that I love you. You're going to have some of my DNA on you. That sounded gross. And also sensual. No. Okay, I'm saying this while making a sweatshirt that my niece is for my niece. That's fucked up. Okay, so I've just got 3 letters left. Let's just get into it. So here's what I recommend when you do this. You want to get, I do it sideways like this because I want to be able to go in and out. You know, if you've embroidered before or sewn before, you're going to have your own way, your comfortable way of doing it. I'm not using a hoop of any kind. Some people like to have a hoop that stretches, or frame that stretches the material to make it easier to go in and out. I'm not doing that. I'm just kind of doing it freehand. And I think that it's fine to do it like this. All right, so I bring the thread up from the back, and I'm going to start at the end of one of my letters. Now, my letters on the puffy paint come out a little curved at the bottom, and I find that that is a little bit trickier part to do. So if you want to start with the easier part, start in the middle. But I start with a really small stitch because what I don't want is for this to get all spaced out and look like bald almost, like I didn't put enough, like a comb over. So you'll see that isn't even covering the puffy paint right there. I just did a tiny stitch on the end to be kind of the end point. Because it's going to also give it some height to build on. The thread's going to build on it. Oop. Again, I'm not like super advanced at this type of embroidery, so there's probably techniques that are better than mine. If you're having any trouble, there's probably 7 million videos. Not that I want you to watch other videos, but look, it's all a community here. You can share. I can share. I mean, this isn't even my original idea. Not even the words on this. They were my niece's. Although I had the vision. Okay. To put it on the shirt. All right. So here we go. Now this is where it just kind of slows down, and it's very relaxing and soothing to do. And you're just going to go across the puffy paint and get your needle as close to the stitch you just did as possible. Now again, this is the curvy part, so you're going to probably have to do like a little bit extra here to make sure that it doesn't like slide down off the little end. You'll see what I mean when you start doing it. Now the puffy paint is a little bit like rubbery, I guess. And you could easily not easily, but you can poke a hole in it with a sharp needle. And so you might find yourself accidentally sort of like stabbing it. Try not to do that too much, because you don't want to like loosen it from the fabric or create a weird jagged edge for yourself. So I'm just doing like just making basically, I'm covering it with stitches, and it's going to look like little tiny stripes of thread all the way around. Now, when you get like an embroidered hat or something, this kind of puffy embroidered look, they use machines to do it. And it is like very, very perfect and very well done. This is not going to have that look if you're doing it by hand, but I kind of like that look. And if you're very skilled at this, you're probably going to be able to get it looking more perfect than I am, because you'll see like there's spots where like the thread looks a little uneven or kind of crossing over itself and not so perfectly lined up. So I want to show you this. I went a little bit over to, sometimes it'll just kind of, it won't be flush against your last stitch, and you'll see a little bit of the puffy paint. There's a gap here. You can fill that in. So what I do is I try to get the needle to go up in between the two stitches where there's a gap and fill that in. So this is kind of like coloring with thread is the best way I would describe it. Like if you're filling in with markers, it kind of gets that lines of your markers look, or like, especially if you're doing pencil, you're filling in. This is fill, but it's covering, whatever. So yeah, so we're just going to do this for a while. And while I do this, I hope you'll get a craft going, or you pause this and you're doing it, along with me. But what I was going to say earlier is, you could get all these supplies at Joann's. You could even get blank shirts at Joann's, like plain ones, but I recommend going to a thrift store. If you can find something that's the right size and color. I think men's, blank, like sweatshirts, plain sweatshirts and t-shirts are harder to find, but there is going to be a plethora of women's, blank, like sweatshirts and stuff. It's interesting because I've talked about this before on a previous podcast, and online before, but like the conversation around upcycling and thrifting, is kind of heated a little bit, because there's debate about like what is ethical. And it's one of those I call like micro, debates, or like a debate within a debate, kind of, because there's no question that buying clothes, that commerce using already made items, is good overall. It's an overall good. We want to reduce the amount of new clothes being made, because it's enormous. It's an enormous problem. Like, it's really, I watched some documentary, which I can't remember the name of, that was extremely disturbing about, and I knew, but like a documentary kind of lays it out very well for you visually. But the amount of clothes that we are making and just throwing into the sea, literally, is unsustainable. And it's one of, these huge fast fashion industries are wrecking the environment. So, and they talked about how brands will act like they're being eco-friendly, but really they're not, because they're just contributing to more and more waste. And of course, we do have, on top of that, too much consumption. Like, you don't need, people are like, you should wear your clothes to death, literally, until they're falling off your body, and even then try to mend them. And we need to have less stuff. And that's hard for me because I love stuff. And I used to have a real like clothes, not hoarding problem, because I would just get rid, sell, or donate when I was done. But what I realized is like I kept buying new clothes, and I was part of the problem, because I love dressing up and I love different outfits, and I love like, expressing myself with what I'm wearing. And I used to have like a shopping problem too. And I think it's still there in me a little bit, where I get that dopamine hit of like going and buying stuff. But I'm really trying to just refocus that at least to just get it, or at least I'm buying things that are secondhand. And I'm not contributing to new products being purchased, being made and purchased. I'm not contributing to that. But, everybody does the best they can. Okay. It's a privilege to be able to take the time. It takes a lot of time, to be honest, to like be someone who only buys used. It really, even if you economically need to, that used is more affordable to you, you can still buy cheap ass shit. You can buy, you can get a shirt. This was probably $4.99 at Goodwill, or wherever I got it. It was probably under $5, but you can get a hoodie for under $5 new from one of the many online, fast fashion retailers like Shein or whatever it's called. I mean, like there's so many, Amazon, just, cheap, whatever. So there's that part of the debate, which is like, I think overall it's good to, if you're going to buy something, to try and buy it secondhand. Okay. But then there's the debate about thrifting, because thrifting is very trendy now. And there's a lot of people who go and they, buy stuff from thrift stores, clothes especially, and they upsell them. They'll buy a cool vintage, like that vintage sweater I just had on. I don't know where I bought it from a vintage retailer on Instagram that I follow, like a small local, like not local to me, but she's like in North Carolina or something. And I bought it from her and she mailed it to me, and it's very cute. And I get compliments on it wherever I go, and it's used. It's secondhand. So yay for me, but also people actually think that practice of upselling something that you bought at a thrift store and just going online and pricing it higher is unethical for a number of reasons. One, they say, oh, you're taking away clothes from the people who need to pay a lower price in those thrift stores. I think that's a very debatable point because one, we have enough inventory in the thrift stores. They are throwing away truckloads of clothes. Like, the thrift stores can't keep up with the amount of clothes being donated, okay? A lot of them don't even take clothes. Like, there's no shortage of clothes, okay? That's not the problem. I think the problem is like, where are you buying? So like Goodwill, people have a lot of opinions about Goodwill. Some people don't like Goodwill. They think that the upsell market is driving up prices in the thrift stores because the thrift stores know that they can maybe charge a little more. But that seems like, I don't know. There's a lot of thrift stores in Richmond, and I just don't know if that's right. I think it could be more that inflation is what is bringing the prices up. And because, if everything is more expensive for us, it's more expensive for a business too. The cost of renting the building you're in is if the rent for me is up, it's up for a business too. Especially if you're a small local organization. So I don't know. I think that, and the people that own these small thrift stores and their workers, they are paying for eggs just like we are, they have to eat too. And they need more money too. So it's bigger than just saying that, oh, because a girl goes on Instagram and sells cute sweaters she finds, that's why prices in Goodwill went up. I'm not really sure that that's 100% true. So yeah, I can't claim to understand pricing in Goodwill, but Goodwill, people say, oh, you shouldn't be shopping in a thrift store if you are rich. Or what does that even mean? How rich are we talking? Like, do you think really rich? Do you think Elon Musk is shopping in a thrift store? No. Okay. Like who is super rich? I guess we're just, splitting hairs here. But, so yeah, I think people say, oh, the thrift stores are for the real poor people. You shouldn't be shopping there if you aren't poor. I'm not sure that's 100% true. Because Goodwill, and I know I keep bringing up Goodwill, but that's like one of the main ones that I know about. Goodwill is, the store itself is not the charity. Let's be clear. The store I don't know if it's for profit, but the profits from the store go to their program, and their programs are purportedly to employ otherwise unemployable people. So formerly incarcerated individuals, people who have a hard time getting hired for a number of reasons, they have programs to train people to work, and they give them jobs. I'm not saying they're perfect. I know that there's some issues with Goodwill as a company. And there's been some questions about how they do treat the employees that they hire and blah, 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 blah. But I'm telling you what they are saying on the surface that they do. Okay. They're saying that the store is not the charity. Okay. It's not a charity for me to go in. If I'm poor, it's not like that store exists for me as a program. I can shop there, but the program, the nonprofit program, is the training, the work training stuff. Okay. So the store is for everyone. They want everyone in there. They want as many people in there shopping, and they want them to pay as much money as they're willing to pay. That's a different business model, economic model for them. So I don't think people understand that. Now, there are some thrift stores that are for a specific community, and that could be because of its location. It's supposed to serve and provide goods, used goods and affordable goods for the people in that community. Community could be community could be people of color. And you as a white person going in there and buying up all the cute sweatshirts, there maybe is a little unseemly vibe to that. I can understand that, for sure. And some local charities are specifically for a specific group of people. So for instance, Dress for Success is a used clothing store that is for, women who are in need, and it helps them dress for job interviews and for work opportunities, and it gets them, and they go in for free. They get a voucher, and no, I'm not supposed to be shopping there. That's not for me. And so if you're not sure, if there's a local thrift store and you're not sure if it's for you, you can always ask. You can say, hey, what is you guys' mission? Who are you serving? Is it okay for just, middle-class person to come in here and buy stuff? Do you care? Do you care who shops here? If they have a specific mission where they would rather you not, they'll tell you. Okay? But I think it's easy to judge and go, you see someone in a thrift store who maybe they look like they're a girl. I've seen them. They've got their basket of all their clothes and they're looking at each thing, and you can tell they're going to resell, but that's their business. Everything is a resold. You think that Target handmade every single thing in that shop? They're reselling things. I guess I don't fully understand why people are so against reselling overall. I do think there are situations where it's unethical. But I don't know if it's just overall bad. I think that, so for instance, for a long time when I didn't have access to a lot of secondhand clothes, in LA, the thrift stores are, one, a lot of them are far away, and two, they're in LA, it's different. It's overrun with hipsters and I don't know. They're just different. And so maybe I wouldn't be able to find a more affordable vintage in particular fashion. So I would follow some Instagram accounts that were doing some curated, upselling vintage items, and that they had found. They had sourced from wherever they sourced them from. I don't know. But they took the time to curate it. They were like my personal shopper in a way. They went out and they found it, and now they're presenting it to me. Maybe they're styling it in a way that I wouldn't have thought to style it. And that is value for me that I'm willing to pay for. So if that sweater that I had on, bought that, I might have paid, normally I'm not going to pay more than $30 for something vintage, unless it's something really fancy, like a dress or a coat or something. I probably paid $35 for that, $30. And that's more than probably what I would pay if I had found it in a Goodwill. But I didn't have to go search every Goodwill in Richmond for that. Someone else did that for me, and they presented it to me as something very cute, in good condition. They vetted it, they found it, and they put it you know, they've styled it and I thought I would like that. And I bought it from them, and that's their business. Why is that bad? I mean, I'm sure somebody will tell me why it's bad in the comments. You know, and I've had conversations in the past about, for instance, like sizing, like some people are going in and buying like huge sizes. So like the plus sizes, and they're like doing the oversized look. Okay. So they're buying like a triple XL sweatshirt and they're wearing it as like an oversized sweatshirt or dress. Like they're you know, watch me turn this extra large t-shirt into a dress, and it's somebody upcycles it into a dress. And people were like, yeah, but that's something you got from the thrift store that was for people who have a hard time finding their size. I could understand that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's individual situations, and there's a right way, you know, there's a better way to do things than others. But I just think across the board saying that reselling things you found at a thrift store is wrong is not right. Now, if you're going to upcycle, like I would call this upcycling, customizing, rethinking. I've sold a couple things that I found that were like originally one thing, but now I'm selling them as something else, like with my cute index cards, like a little holder that was originally like a taco holder. And I was like, oh, this would perfectly hold my index card packs that I'm selling. Okay. That's a rethinking. I didn't change the item. I got it at a thrift store and I uppriced it just by a couple bucks. Not crazy. Just for, you're paying for my time and my thought and my ideas. And I think that's okay. And if someone did buy it, they thought it was valuable, and so they bought it. I think it's similar with art. Like I could see somebody's painting and go, I wouldn't pay $1 for that. You couldn't pay me to put that in my house, and someone else will pay $100,000 for it. It's the value you put on it. I mean, oh, I'm getting a phone call. I'm really popular. Anyway, so there's that element. Also, my mom had a thrift store in the 90s, early 90s to the mid 90s. And we worked in, it was downtown Richmond. The building is still there. It's abandoned. I guess it's abandoned. It's owned by someone. I actually know things about potentially what's going to happen with it that I can't share publicly, but I know people. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the space, but it's a boarded up old building in downtown Richmond, and it's been untouched basically since my mom's time. My mom passed away in 2007, and she had a thrift store called Pennies for Heaven. And so I know all about the thrift store game from the other side of it, from someone owning a thrift store. Now, she had a thrift store similar, she had a model kind of similar to Goodwill in that the store was for anyone. And the money from the store paid for the programs that she did as her nonprofit. So yes, poor people, you know, people in need could come into the store and go, hey, you know, I really need a pair of shoes. And maybe they could afford it, but if they said, I really need a pair of shoes and I need them and I can't pay for them, my mom would give them the shoes. It was like that kind of place. But she would welcome the wealthy ladies from the suburbs coming down and buying a piece of cute furniture from the 60s or a dress, you know. And my mom had good taste, so she knew how to like display things, and she curated stuff, but then it would just be racks of clothes and you could buy a bag for like $1. But we had so many donations. We had to throw away so much of it. And that was in the early 90s. Imagine now the amount of clothes going into donations. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway, I guess maybe that's why I have like a little bit of a more lax attitude about it. I'm just like, everybody's just trying to get by, and they're bringing value, and they're, you know, maybe they're helping the community and they're trying to make a little money to do that. And so they want, you know, somebody to come in and curate from her store. And you know, a lot of the times the upsellers, the resellers are the core shoppers at these places. I think I've made my point. I've talked a lot about thrifting, but you know, these days there are so many creative people doing upcycling. I found all these accounts on Instagram of like the reimagining of stuff, an old Nike sweatshirt, or taking a tablecloth or a quilt and turning it into a cool piece of fashion. And like, I love that. And like, it's still part of commerce and consumption. You know, you're still buying something that maybe you don't need, but at least it keeps it out of the landfill for a little bit longer. And it's given me a lot of inspiration to, like, instead of throwing something away, going, you know what, I actually could turn that into something else before it ends up in a donation bag, which a lot of times ends up in the landfill, realistically speaking. So, you know, those are my 2 cents there. This is taking a long time. So I'm going to probably, I'm still on the V here. And I might be going slower because I'm talking, but I don't want to keep you guys all day. But you can see I've done this line of the V, and it's a little crooked. I feel like because I'm talking, I'm not focusing as much on being straight. Like the I here is a little straighter than the V, but it's going to look good from a distance. And I think let's not belinger. Let's not belinger. What I was going to say. Oh, one more thing I want to talk about. I'll stitch for just a little bit longer because I wanted to chat about something else. So I talked about Joann's earlier. That was the 2 things. I want to talk about thrift stores and Joann's. So Joann's, if you're someone who crafts, you've probably been to a Joann's. I'm obsessed with Joann's, and I also have like a lot of jokes in my act about Hobby Lobby, but making fun of Hobby Lobby and praising Joann's. But oh, by the way, you're gonna need probably more of this than you realize. So make sure you get, like, depending on how many letters you're gonna do, make sure you get like 3 or 4 little skeins or whatever they're called of your floss, so that you you know, if you run out it's not a pain. Okay, so when you're done with a strand, when you're getting to the end of it, what I do is, again, my saliva is melded into the project, is I go to the underside, and you can see it's pretty messy, but I'll clean that. I'll show you how I'm going to clean it up at the end. And I just stick the needle through underneath, but not too far because I don't want it to poke out the front, and just like pull it through so that it's got a little bit of, it's held in place and doesn't come loose on the front. Okay, so another thing I'll say is when you get to an end of a letter, don't keep sewing to the next letter. Cut your thread, pull through your thread and cut it, and have each letter be independent, because what can happen is it could pucker. If you go from, like, for instance, the percentage sign over to the L and you pull the thread too tight, it'll start to pucker, and you don't want that. So each letter is its own independent thread. And I'm always kind of checking to make sure I'm not making it too tight, because that's when the puckering, like you saw on the Arizona shirt, that starts to happen. So you just want to always make sure. Okay. I'll do a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the end of the show. So I was going to say it was Joann's. Okay, so Joann's, I love a Joann's. I'm not going to do my stand-up about Joann's for you. You have to buy a ticket for that. Why am I being so aggressive? So you're going to buy a ticket to my show. But anyway, Joann's. I love Joann's. But if you've heard, Joann's not doing so great. Okay? Joann's on her last breath. Joann, and by the way, I call it Joann's, even though it's Joann, because I'm in my 40s. So that's when you start adding S's on to the end of things that are singular. Joann's, love Joann's. They got deals, they got coupons, they got a lot of fabric. It's one of the only fabrics, crafting stores that has extensive amount of fabric selection. That's affordable for a lot of people. Hobby Lobby also has a fair amount of fabric, but that's Hobby Lobby, and not everybody wants to shop there for good reason. So, Joann's is going through its second bankruptcy, like I think in a year or in the past 2 years. Right now, they just announced it. And this is all part of what we would call, what Scott calls, the enshittification of everything. The enshittification is when something that you used to like is now, for some reason, shitty, and you're not sure why. Well, chances are it's because of private equity. Private equity comes in, fucks up a business, makes it lower quality, tears it apart, and then sells it. And it's all about siphoning profits up to the management and the people who invested, not in the people that actually work there, the people that support the company with their own money by buying their products. It is not about the customer, and it's not about the worker, it's about the money up top. And I highly recommend following my pal Meredith M. Lynch. Meredith M. Lynch on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, etc., because she does a lot of content about private equity and calls out celebrities who are like engaging in private equity. And if you don't know what private equity is, I'll give you my very rudimentary understanding of it, which is it's when like a private equity firm, so it's like an investment firm, comes in and they'll buy a company or an organization, like even a nursing home or a dentist's office or a huge retailer like Joann's. They'll come in and they'll buy it. And it's almost like house flipping. Like they'll basically strip it and resell it for a profit. And the reason that they do that, or the reason why it fucks it up, is that they buy it on, they take on, this is my stupid understanding, they take on a lot of debt in order to make this purchase, but they aren't responsible for the debt. What I'm trying to say is that private equity usually fucks up the company's actual product or operations, and the quality begins to suffer because they're not actually caring about the actual product. And I think this is also what is harming things in Hollywood as well. That, you know, we're just worrying about profit now and not about actually making something good. And the people who own the company have no understanding of what made the company good to begin with and why it was successful to begin with. So I was reading about Joann's, the bankruptcy, and a lot of people were saying, you know, Joann's, these are like people who work there, like our store actually has been doing great in sales, especially after the pandemic, and people have picked up crafting more. Hence this show. But it seems like they've just bungled it, you know, since the last bankruptcy, because they're just siphoning all the profits up to management and the owners, and not like reinvesting back in the store, and they're not hiring, and they're understaffed. I mean, if you've been to Joann's, you know that shit is understaffed. It is they've got, Joann's has a lady, you know, who looks like she's on her deathbed trying to lift up a box of merchandise, you know, and then has to run over and help your sorry ass with your coupons, you know, like they are, I don't know. I love that store, but they really, cause like they just have really screwed it up. And they've, you know, they don't have the proper inventory, and it's just, you know, you go in there and it's just apocalyptic now. So this is what happened to Joann's. It started with the leveraged buyout, which was a private equity investment, Leonard Green Partners. So then they managed the company for short-term profits. The debt grew with interest rates and rolling it over into new debt. When the company couldn't pay on the debt any longer, it filed for bankruptcy. Joann had a windfall during COVID as people stuck at home turned to crafts. Now a company called, I think it's like Gordon Brothers, is talking about buying it and then selling, liquidating it and closing all the stores, which would be really, really sad. However, in the short term, a lot of discounts. They're going to do a clearance sale. Keep your eye out, crafters, for an opportunity to get some supplies for cheaper. However, it is going to be really sad to have Joann's close, because it's a place that a lot of people get, businesses, even small makers, source their materials from Joann, bulk purchasing, and anyway, it's going to have an effect on the business, and it's just, you know, it's never good It's never good when private equity comes and takes a giant dump on the thing you like. And that's the enshittification of the world. Okay, so let's stitch just a tiny bit more, and then we'll be out of here. So when you're done, one thing I'd recommend is like just go through, and if you see where like there's some bald spots or whatever, you could put a little dab of glue to try and keep it in place. But on the back, I would say to clean it up a little, cut off all your strings and take some fabric glue, like something like this, Fabric Fusion, and put it in a little thing and take a paintbrush and just gently put a tiny amount of fabric glue with a paintbrush like all around to keep it from fraying. And when you wash, follow the wash instructions for the puffy paint, but I would say gentle cycle on cold, use Woolite or something like that, and then hang dry. You don't want to mess this up. I want to see, if you make this, I would love to see your what you put on the shirt. I'm probably going to make a few of these and have them available in the shop if you want to buy one. If you have a custom idea that you'd like me to make for you, I do custom orders. All you have to do is go to my Etsy shop, craftingthroughit.etsy.com, and there's a little button to say send message to seller. Like if you want a custom order, message me. You can also message me on other platforms, but we'll take it over to Etsy to get the official order going. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you will join me each time and share your crafting with me. If you have something cool that you've made that has nothing to do with what I'm doing, send it to me and I'll maybe show it on the show. Maybe show it on the show. Of course I'll show it on the show because you're going to be probably the only one that sends it to me. Now's your chance. Get in early, okay? All right, so I will probably show you like the end product of the DEI hire later when I finish it. But this is really fun to do. I know Jana's gonna love her finished sweatshirt. I'll post a picture of her if she lets me, of her wearing the shirt. And maybe I'll make another one if people want one. Thank you guys so much. So much more to come. Thanks for crafting through it with me. I love you.